Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something I know you're really interested in, tax evasion in UK retail.
Yeah, it's one of those things that maybe doesn't sound super exciting,
Right?
but I think you'll find it's got a lot more twists and turns than you might expect.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So to get into this, we're looking at a report from Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee. They put this out February 12th of this year,
Yeah, they're kind of
of 2025.
they're the ones who keep an eye on the government, make
Right.
sure everything's on the up and up.
Exactly.
When they release something, it's usually worth a look, and this one's pretty interesting.
For sure.
They start off by saying that HMRC estimates tax evasion costs the UK like 5.5 billion pounds in 2022-23.
Okay, so 5.5 billion. That's got to be
It's a lot of money.
That's enough to buy everyone in London
Right.
a fancy coffee and a pastry every day for a year.
Easy.
Or fund the NHS for like a few hours.
Yeah, money that's just disappearing from the economy. But the thing that I find really fascinating is that 5.5 billion, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Even 5.5 billion is an underestimate.
It seems that way, yeah. There's this example they talk about with online marketplaces.
Okay.
Back in 2021, the government, they introduced a rule to try and make online marketplaces be responsible for collecting VAT from overseas sellers.
Makes sense trying to close those loopholes.
Yeah, exactly. And they estimated that this would bring in an extra like 300 million pounds per year.
Oh, okay.
But get this, they actually ended up collecting 1.5 billion.
Whoa. Okay, so
5 times higher than what they expected.
that's a huge difference.
It's massive, yeah.
I mean, that kind of suggests that HMRC is missing a ton of potential tax revenue.
Right, and what I find kind of strange is that HMRC doesn't seem to be that bothered about this difference.
Oh, really?
They haven't looked into it.
Why was the estimate so far off? I mean,
Yeah, you would think,
wouldn't you want to know?
especially if it's good news. It suggests that they don't really have a good understanding of how big this problem actually is.
Right. So we're thinking, okay, big corporations dodging their taxes, but
Uh,
actually,
It's not all about the big guys.
yeah.
81% of tax evasion in 2022-23 was actually by small businesses.
Really?
Yeah,
So we're talking about like your local shops, cafes, things like that.
exactly. And this has gone up quite a bit compared to previous years.
So it's getting worse.
It seems to be, yeah.
It makes you wonder if HMRC's approach is actually working.
Yeah, this is a big point that they make in the report. They say that HMRC doesn't have a specific strategy to deal with tax evasion.
Okay.
They lump it in with just general non-compliance.
But that's so different, though.
Exactly, like accidentally filling out a form wrong
Yeah.
is very different to deliberately hiding income.
Right.
Like evasion is intentional, it's people trying to cheat the system.
So they're not really treating evasion as its own thing.
It doesn't seem like it, no.
Yeah.
Their main objective is to reduce the overall tax gap, which is the difference between what should be collected and what is collected.
Okay.
But they don't have a specific target for reducing evasion itself.
It's kind of like saying, I want to lose weight, but I'm not going to change my diet or exercise.
Exactly.
You might see a little bit of progress.
Yeah, but you're not dealing with the root of the problem.
Right.
And there's this kind of irony because HMRC say they have a zero-tolerance approach to evasion,
Oh, okay.
but without actually having a target for reducing it.
Like, what does that even mean?
It doesn't really hold much weight, does it?
No. So we know there's a problem, but how are businesses actually evading taxes?
Well, the report points to some weaknesses in the UK system, which make it surprisingly easy for businesses to slip under the radar.
Okay.
One of the main culprits is Companies House.
Companies House, what do they have to do with tax evasion?
So they're responsible for registering companies in the UK.
Okay.
And before recent reforms, they estimated that something like 20% of registered companies were actually fraudulent.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's a massive loophole. How's that even possible?
Well, before this new law came in, the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act, or ECCTA,
Right.
Companies House didn't really have the power to check the information that businesses provided when they were registering.
Okay.
So it was really easy to create a fake company with a made-up address just to evade taxes.
So you could just make up a business and an address and just start operating under the radar?
Yeah, basically. And because Companies House wasn't checking, these fake businesses could open bank accounts, register for VAT,
Wow.
basically operate like legitimate businesses while dodging their tax obligations.
It's crazy. So this new act, the ECCTA, did that fix things?
Well, it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Okay.
ECCTA does give Companies House more power to check information and crack down on these fake companies.
Like what kind of things?
So they can now remove inaccurate information from the register.
Okay.
and they can share data with other government bodies like HMRC, and they've already taken down like 50,000 dodgy addresses from the register.
Okay, so they're actually doing stuff.
Yeah, it's promising.
But I'm guessing there's still some gaps in the system.
There are, yeah.
Yeah.
One big concern is that some of the key changes, like making identity checks mandatory for company directors, that won't actually be fully in place until the end of 2026.
Oh, wow. So we've got a while to wait.
Yeah, and even then, Companies House still won't have the power to verify company addresses.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So they can check who's running the company, but not where it is?
Yeah, it's a bit strange.
That seems like a big loophole.
Yeah, what's stopping someone from just registering their business at a fake address and then disappearing when it's time to pay their taxes?
It seems like they've only solved half the problem.
Exactly. It's like having a really fancy security system in your house, but leaving the back door wide open.
Okay, so we've got Companies House, which is a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But what about HMRC themselves? What are they doing to stop evasion, like right at the beginning when a business first registers for VAT?
Yeah, that's another area that the report looks at. You'd think they'd be really careful with VAT registration because there's so much potential revenue there.
Yeah, VAT is a big deal, right? It's added to most goods and services.
Exactly. But here's the thing. HMRC doesn't routinely check addresses when a business registers for VAT.
Wait, what?
Yes. So
Seriously?
you could literally make up an address, register for VAT, and start collecting taxes without HMRC ever checking if you actually exist at that address.
So I could just make something up and they wouldn't know?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They're relying a lot on online marketplaces to do the checks for them.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't seem to be working that well. There was that case in Cardiff where a guy's home address was falsely used by thousands of overseas businesses to register for VAT.
Yeah, I read about that.
It's crazy, right? This guy has been getting thousands of letters from HMRC demanding unpaid taxes from these fake businesses.
That's so unfair.
It is. Imagine getting all these demands for taxes you don't owe because some random businesses have used your address without your knowledge.
It's awful.
And the thing is, he's been raising this with the committee for over a year.
Really? And nothing's changed?
Nope, HMRC still haven't stopped these registrations. They've even sent him demands for unpaid taxes and import duties as recently as October last year.
That's unbelievable.
It is. It makes you wonder how committed they really are to tackling this problem.
Yeah.
And there's something else I find really frustrating. They're not even looking into some of the things that have worked really well in other countries.
What do you mean?
So there's this system called transaction-based reporting,
Okay.
where businesses regularly report their sales and purchases to the tax authority.
Transaction-based reporting.
Yeah, and this has actually had a lot of success in cutting down VAT evasion in other countries.
Like where?
So it's used in quite a few places, particularly in Latin America and parts of Europe, and it's really effective.
Okay.
Basically, it means businesses are giving real-time data about what they're doing.
Oh, so the tax authorities can see it straight away.
Yeah, exactly. So that it can say exactly how much VAT is owed.
It makes it a lot harder to hide things.
Right, because then you're not relying on these periodic filings that people can easily mess with.
And I guess they can spot problems much faster.
Exactly. So why isn't HMRC doing this?
That's a good question. It seems like a no-brainer.
You'd think so, right?
You've got a system that works in other countries.
Yeah.
And they're not even looking at it.
They say that they haven't properly looked into the cost and benefits of doing it.
Oh, come on.
It's a bit baffling.
You're telling me they're not going to do something that could potentially bring in billions of pounds because they haven't done a cost-benefit analysis?
That's what they're saying.
It just doesn't make sense.
It's a bit frustrating, and it's not just about the lost revenue either.
Yeah.
This lack of action has a real impact on the businesses who are trying to do things the right way.
Oh, right. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Yeah.
We've talked about how tax evasion is bad for the economy.
Yeah.
But what about the honest businesses, the ones who are actually paying their taxes?
Imagine you're running a small business.
Yeah.
You're working hard, paying your taxes, doing everything by the book.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you've got a competitor who's popping up offering crazy low prices because they're not paying their VAT.
It's just not fair.
Exactly. It gives these dishonest businesses an unfair advantage, and in the end, it hurts consumers too.
Because...
Well, they might be drawn in by those low prices.
Right. They think they're getting a good deal.
Exactly. But they don't realize that someone else is footing the bill for those tax savings.
It all comes out in the wash somewhere.
It does, yeah.
So what's being done to actually punish these tax evaders? Are they facing any consequences for their actions?
Well, this is where the report gets really interesting. HMRC does have the power to investigate and prosecute tax evasion cases.
Yeah.
But the figures show that the number of prosecutions has gone down a lot in recent years.
Really?
Yeah, so to give you an idea, in 2018-19, HMRC brought 749 prosecutions for tax evasion.
Okay.
By 2023-24, that number had dropped to just 344.
That's less than half.
It's a big drop.
What's going on?
It's not entirely clear why prosecutions have gone down so much,
Okay.
but it sends a worrying message.
What do you mean?
Well, it's almost like they're saying, go ahead and evade taxes. We probably won't catch you. And even if we do, you're probably not going to face serious consequences.
Well, that's not a great incentive to do the right thing.
No, if you know you can get away with it, why wouldn't you?
Right. And it's not just about prosecutions.
No.
HMRC also has these powers to tackle specific types of evasion, like the use of electronic sales suppression software.
Oh, yeah. ESS software.
What is that?
You can think of it as like a digital cheat sheet for evading taxes.
Okay.
It's designed to hide sales and underreport income.
So basically making it look like a business is making less money than it is.
Exactly.
That's pretty sneaky.
It is. Very clever.
Are they actually using these powers to go after businesses using the software?
Not really.
Right.
The report says that even though they got these powers in 2022, HMRC hasn't given out a single penalty for using ESS software.
Seriously. They've got this powerful tool to stop a specific type of evasion, and they're not even using it.
It's a bit strange, and it's not just HMRC either. Another government body, the Insolvency Service, is also not really doing enough.
Okay, remind me, what does the Insolvency Service do again?
So they're responsible for disqualifying rogue directors.
Rogue directors.
Yeah, so these are directors who are doing illegal or unethical things, like deliberately making a company go bankrupt to avoid paying its debts.
So they're basically running a company into the ground to get out of paying what they owe.
Exactly, and that includes taxes. This practice is called phoenixism, and it costs the UK at least £500 million a year.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is. So how many directors do you think have been disqualified for doing this?
I don't know. Give me a number.
Okay, between 2018-19 and 2023-24, the Insolvency Service disqualified a grand total of 7 directors for phoenixism.
7?
Yeah.
You're kidding me, right?
That's it. That's all they did.
That's ridiculous.
It's not exactly a strong deterrent, is it?
It's like they're not even taking it seriously.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
This is all pretty depressing. We've got this huge problem costing the UK billions of pounds.
Yeah.
And the people who are supposed to be stopping it just don't seem to be doing enough.
Well, it's a complicated issue.
Yeah.
But the report does point to some recent reforms that might help to turn things around.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. There is hope.
There's hope. Okay, good. I like hope.
One of the main things is that Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act that we talked about earlier, the ECCTA.
Right.
Now, it's not perfect, especially with the address verification,
Yeah.
but it does give Companies House more power to investigate and go after fraudulent companies.
Okay, so that's a positive step at least.
Yeah, it is a good start.
What else needs to happen? What are the main things that we need to do to actually tackle this problem properly?
Well, first of all, HMRC needs to have an actual strategy for dealing with tax evasion.
Yeah.
It's time to stop treating it like it's just another type of non-compliance.
Right. It's a deliberate criminal act.
Exactly. It needs a proper plan, not just a vague idea of reducing the tax gap.
A game plan.
Yeah, exactly. A plan with actual objectives, targets that they can measure, and a clear roadmap of how they're going to get there.
Okay, so how much do they want to reduce evasion by?
Yeah.
And how are they going to do it?
Exactly. And how will they know if it's working?
Right. You can't manage what you can't measure.
Exactly.
So what about Companies House? What should they be doing?
So Companies House needs to keep working on making their checks more robust.
Okay.
Those ECCTA reforms are good,
Yeah.
but they need to be put in place as soon as possible.
And they need to sort out the address verification problem.
Yes, definitely.
If they can verify who's running a company, why can't they verify where it is?
Exactly. And it's not just about checking new registrations either.
Oh, right.
They need to be able to look at existing companies as well.
Okay.
And take fraudulent companies off the register.
It's like they need to do a big spring clean.
Yeah, get rid of all the fake companies that are clogging up the system.
And HMRC and Companies House should be working together.
Absolutely.
Sharing information.
Yeah, they've talked about having a joint registration system,
Oh, okay.
which would be really good because it would streamline the process, make it more accurate, and make it much harder for fraudulent companies to slip through.
So better communication and collaboration is key.
Definitely. No more working in silos.
Right. It's like different parts of a machine, if they're not working together properly,
Yeah.
the whole thing breaks down.
Exactly.
You need that coordinated effort to make it work.
Absolutely. And the report is very clear about that. They say there needs to be a more joined-up approach between HMRC, Companies House, and the Insolvency Service.
Right.
They need to share information, coordinate what they're doing, and basically work together to close these loopholes.
Okay, so we've talked about stopping it before it happens.
Yeah.
But what about the people who are already evading taxes? Are there actually any consequences for them?
Yeah, well, we know that prosecutions have dropped a lot. So what can we do to turn that around? Well, HMRC needs to show that they're serious about this.
Right.
They need to increase the number of prosecutions.
Okay.
It's not just about punishing people who've done wrong.
Okay.
It's about sending a message to everyone else.
That they're not going to get away with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need to make it clear that tax evasion is not tolerated, and if you're caught, you will be punished.
And I guess they need to be more open about it as well.
Yeah, they need to be transparent about what they're doing.
Right.
And they need to publicly announce successful prosecutions because that would be a big deterrent.
What justice needs to not only be done, but also be seen to be done.
Exactly.
It builds trust.
It does. And we can't forget about the Insolvency Service either.
Oh, yeah?
They need to do more as well. Disqualifying just 7 directors for phoenixism in 5 years, that's just not good enough.
It's ridiculous.
It is. They need to be much more proactive in going after these rogue directors who are using insolvency as a way to avoid paying their taxes.
Yeah, it's like they're giving them a get-out-of-jail-free card.
It's not sending the right message. And this isn't just about the money either.
No.
It's about fairness.
Yeah.
It's about protecting honest businesses, and it's about making sure everyone follows the rules.
If it feels like people aren't playing by the same rules, it makes the whole system seem unfair.
Exactly.
And it makes people lose trust in the government.
Yeah. And then there's the impact on public services, too.
Oh, right.
Every pound lost to tax evasion is a pound that can't be spent on things like healthcare,
Education.
infrastructure.
All the important stuff.
Right. It affects everything.
So we've talked a lot about what the government needs to do.
Yeah.
But what about us? What can we do as individuals? Are we just supposed to sit back and hope they sort it out?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You can definitely make a difference.
Okay.
One of the most important things is to be a responsible consumer.
What do you mean?
Be wary of places offering really low prices.
Okay.
If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Right, if they're cutting corners somewhere.
Exactly. You get
Yeah.
what you pay for. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
If you think a business is doing something dodgy, report it to HMRC.
They have a hotline or something.
They do. Yeah. It's anonymous. You can report tax evasion.
So we can be like HMRC's eyes and ears on the ground.
Exactly. You can help them to find and investigate potential cases of evasion. And don't underestimate the power of just talking about it.
Right.
Tell your friends and family. Talk about it on social media.
Raise awareness.
Exactly. The more people who know about this problem and are talking about it, the more pressure it puts on the government to do something about it.
This isn't just about taxes.
Well,
it's about what kind of society we want to live in.
exactly. We all have a role to play in making sure that it's fair.
Okay, well, this has definitely been an interesting conversation. I've learned a lot.
Me too.
We've looked at the complexities of tax evasion, the things that allow it to happen, and what we can do to try and stop it.
We've seen that it's a big problem, but there are things that can be done.
There's hope for the future.
There is.
What would you say is the most important thing for people to take away from this deep dive today?
I think the key takeaway is that we all have a responsibility to be aware of this problem
Right.
and to do what we can to challenge it.
It's not just up to the government to challenge it.
Exactly.
We all have a part to play.
Yeah. And the more we talk about this, the more we demand action, the more likely we are to see real change.
Right. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us on this deep dive into tax evasion in the UK retail sector.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it informative, and we hope it's given you some food for thought.
Definitely lots to think about.
If you're interested in learning more, we'll post the links to all the resources we mentioned in the show notes.
Yes, definitely check those out.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
So come chat with us on social media. Let us know what you think.
What changes would you like to see?
How can we make this system fair?
Yeah, what kind of society do we want to live in?
Your voice matters, so make sure you use it.
Definitely.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Transaction-based reporting. I've never heard of that.
It's a system used in several countries, particularly in Latin America and Europe, with proven results in combating VAT evasion. Essentially, businesses provide real-time data on their transactions, giving tax authorities immediate visibility into VAT owed.
So it's like having a live feed of all the business activity, making it much harder to hide sales or underreport income.
Exactly. It removes the reliance on periodic filings, which can be easily manipulated, and it allows tax authorities to identify discrepancies and potential fraud much faster.
That sounds incredibly effective. So why isn't HMRC jumping at this opportunity?
That's the million-pound question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their official line is that they haven't fully analyzed the costs and benefits of implementing such a system.
Come on, this feels like a no-brainer. You've got a proven solution used successfully in other countries, and they're dragging their feet because of a cost-benefit analysis.
It is a bit baffling, isn't it? Especially when you consider the potential revenue they could recoup. And it's not just about lost revenue. This lack of action has serious consequences for businesses who are trying to do things the right way.
That's right. We haven't even touched on that yet. We've talked about how tax evasion hurts the UK economy, but what about the impact on honest businesses?
Think about it from their perspective. You're a small business owner, you're working hard to build your business, paying your taxes, following all the rules, and suddenly a competitor pops up, offering ridiculously low prices because they're not paying their fair share of VAT.
It's like running a race with someone who gets a head start and doesn't have to follow the same rules. It's completely unfair.
Exactly. Tax evasion gives dishonest businesses an unfair advantage, and in the long run, it hurts consumers too. They might be drawn to those cheaper prices, not realizing the true cost that someone else is footing the bill for those tax savings.
So what's being done to punish these tax evaders? Are they facing any consequences for their actions?
This is where the report gets really interesting. While HMRC does have the power to investigate and prosecute tax evasion cases, the data reveals a worrying trend. The number of prosecutions has plummeted in recent years.
Plummeted, like a significant drop.
To give you an idea, in 2018-19, HMRC brought 749 prosecutions for tax evasion. By 2023-24, that number had dropped to just 344.
That's less than half. What on earth is going on?
It's unclear why prosecutions have decreased so drastically, but it sends a dangerous message. It's almost like saying, if you're going to evade taxes, we probably won't catch you, and even if we do, you're unlikely to face serious consequences.
Wow, that's a pretty big disincentive for anyone thinking about playing by the rules. I mean, if you know you can get away with it, why wouldn't you?
Precisely. And it's not just about prosecutions. HMRC also has specific powers to tackle certain types of evasion, like the use of electronic sales suppression ESS software.
Wait, that's software. What's that?
Think of it like a digital cheat sheet for tax evasion. This software is designed to hide sales and underreport income, essentially manipulating electronic records to make it look like a business is making less money than it actually is.
Wow, that's sneaky. It's like something out of a spy movie. So are they using these powers to go after businesses using this software?
Not really. The report states that despite gaining these powers in 2022, HMRC hasn't issued a single penalty for the use of ESS software.
Seriously, they have this powerful tool to combat a specific type of evasion, and they're just letting it sit there gathering dust.
It's perplexing, to say the least. And the lack of action doesn't stop there. Another government body, the Insolvency Service, is also falling short.
Okay, so remind me, what does the Insolvency Service do again?
They're responsible for disqualifying rogue directors.
Rogue directors, what does that mean exactly?
These are directors who engage in illegal or unethical activities, like intentionally driving a company into insolvency to avoid paying debts, including taxes.
So basically, they deliberately bankrupt the company to escape their financial obligations.
Exactly. This practice, known as phoenixism, costs the UK at least $500 million per year.
That's another huge chunk of missing money. So how many directors have been disqualified for this kind of behavior?
Brace yourself. Between 2018-19 and 2023-24, the Insolvency Service disqualified a measly 7 directors for phoenixism.
7? You're kidding, right? That's almost laughable considering how much money we're talking about.
It does make you wonder if they're even taking this seriously. It certainly doesn't send a strong message of deterrence.
This is all pretty disheartening. We've got this massive problem costing the UK billions, and it seems like the agencies responsible for tackling it are either under-equipped, under-resourced, or just not motivated enough to do anything about it.
It's definitely a complex issue. But remember, the report also highlights some recent reforms that could help turn the tide.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. There's some hope on the horizon.
There's always hope. One of the key reforms is the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act, or ECCTA, which we discussed earlier. While it still has some shortcomings, particularly regarding address verification, it does give Companies House more power to investigate and take action against fraudulent companies.
Right, so that's a step in the right direction, even if it's not perfect. But what else needs to happen? What are the key solutions to really tackle this problem?
First and foremost, HMRC needs a dedicated and comprehensive strategy for combating tax evasion. It's time to stop treating it as just another form of non-compliance. They need to acknowledge that evasion is a deliberate criminal act requiring a targeted approach.
So they need a game plan, not just a vague intention to reduce the tax gap.
Exactly. And that game plan should include specific objectives, measurable targets, and a clear roadmap for how they're going to achieve those goals. How much do they aim to reduce evasion by? What specific actions will they take to reach that target? And how will they measure their success?
Makes sense. You can't manage what you don't measure, right? So what about Companies House? What role should they play in all of this?
Companies House needs to continue strengthening its verification processes. While the ECCTA reforms are a positive step, they need to be fully implemented as soon as possible. And, crucially, they need to address the issue of address verification.
Right, that's a major loophole that needs to be plugged. If they can verify a director's identity, why not the location of the business?
It's a baffling oversight that needs to be rectified. And it's not just about verifying new registrations. Companies House should also have the power to audit existing registrations and remove fraudulent companies from the register.
It's like they need to do a thorough spring cleaning of their database and get rid of all the fake businesses that have been clogging up the system.
A great analogy. And HMRC and Companies House should be working hand in hand to share data and intelligence. They've been discussing a joint registration system, which would be a huge step forward. It would streamline the process, improve accuracy, and make it much harder for fraudulent companies to slip through the cracks.
So better communication and collaboration between these agencies is key. No more working in silos.
Absolutely. The report specifically calls for a more joined-up approach between HMRC, Companies House, and the Insolvency Service. They need to share information, coordinate their efforts, and work together seamlessly to close these loopholes.
Imagine these agencies as different parts of a machine. If they're not working in sync, the machine breaks down. You need a coordinated effort to make this work effectively.
Exactly. And it's not just about prevention. There also need to be stronger consequences for those who are caught evading taxes.
Okay, let's talk about enforcement. We already know that prosecutions have dropped dramatically. What can be done to turn that around?
HMRC needs to show they mean business by increasing the number of prosecutions. It's not just about punishing the guilty. It's about sending a strong message of deterrence.
Right. It's about making it clear that tax evasion will not be tolerated. And if you're caught, you will face consequences.
Exactly. And they need to be more transparent about their enforcement actions. Publicly announcing successful prosecutions would serve as a powerful deterrent.
It's like that saying, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to be done. Transparency builds trust and accountability.
And let's not forget about the Insolvency Service. They need to step up their game, too.
Yeah.
Disqualifying only 7 directors for phoenixism over 5 years is simply not good enough. They need to be more proactive in identifying and pursuing these rogue directors who are using insolvency as a shield to avoid their tax obligations.
It's like they're giving those rogue directors a get-out-of-jail-free card.
It sends that message, unfortunately. And remember, this is about more than just lost revenue. It's about fairness, it's about protecting honest businesses, and it's about upholding the rule of law.
Right. Tax evasion undermines the entire system and erodes trust in government. If people feel like the rules don't apply to everyone, it creates a sense of cynicism and disillusionment.
And we can't forget about the impact on public services. Every pound lost to tax evasion is a pound that can't be invested in essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure.
It's a domino effect that impacts every aspect of society. Okay, we've talked a lot about what the government needs to do, but what about us? What can we as individuals do to help combat this problem? Are we just supposed to sit back and hope the government sorts it out?
Not at all. You have a role to play, too. The most important thing is to be a responsible consumer. Be wary of businesses offering prices that seem too good to be true. They might be cutting corners and evading taxes.
Right. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. It's like that old saying, you get what you pay for.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you suspect a business is engaging in dodgy practices, report it to HMRC. They have a confidential hotline specifically for reporting tax evasion.
So we can be the eyes and ears on the ground.
You got it. You can play a crucial role in helping HMRC identify and investigate potential cases of evasion. And don't underestimate the power of your voice. Talk to your friends, family, and colleagues about this issue. Raise awareness on social media.
Right. We can use our platforms to amplify this message and hold those in power accountable.
The more people who understand the problem and demand action, the more pressure it puts on the government to address it. This isn't just about taxes. It's about fairness, integrity, and the kind of society we want to live in. We all have a stake in this.
Wow, it really feels like we've gone deep into this today, exploring the kind of hidden world of tax evasion in UK retail.
It has been an interesting journey. Yeah.
Some pretty unsettling stuff we've uncovered.
Yeah, it is concerning how big the problem is and how little seems to be being done about it.
Yeah, but we've also talked about how individuals can play a role, and you mentioned earlier there are some kind of bigger changes happening that give you hope for the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think even though there are all these challenges, there's a real movement building for more transparency and accountability in how our tax system works.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about this movement, like who's involved in that?
It's not just one group. It's this really cool mix of people.
Oh, okay.
You've got tax justice campaigners who've been working on this for years.
Right.
Academics doing all this fascinating research and investigative journalists, and even some businesses who are just fed up with unfair competition from companies who aren't paying their taxes.
So it's like a real grassroots thing.
It is, yeah.
People are fed up and they're demanding change.
Exactly. And they're not just complaining. They're actually doing stuff about it,
Like what kind of stuff?
They're digging into the data. They're running these amazing campaigns to get the message out there.
Okay.
They're lobbying the government and pushing for stronger laws and regulations.
So they're actually putting pressure on the government to take this seriously.
Yeah, and it seems to be working. Public awareness about tax evasion is definitely growing. That's good.
Yeah, people are starting to realize that this isn't just some abstract problem. It's about fairness. It's about social justice.
Right.
It's about making sure that everyone is contributing their fair share.
It's like we all need to be in the same boat.
Yeah.
And if some people are sneaking through with holes in their hull,
Right.
it's not fair on everyone else.
Exactly. And all of this is starting to have an impact on the political side of things as well.
Okay.
More and more politicians are starting to acknowledge that this is a problem that needs to be dealt with.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, good.
It's complicated, and it's going to take time to fix.
Yeah.
But just the fact that people are talking about it is a big step forward.
Right. Silence just lets these problems get worse.
Yeah, definitely. Bringing it out into the open is the first step to fixing it.
And as we said before,
Yeah.
you don't have to be an expert or a politician to make a difference.
No, absolutely not. Just being a conscious consumer, supporting businesses that are doing the right thing, reporting anything suspicious, all of that helps.
Exactly. Every little bit counts.
We can all be part of the solution.
Definitely.
Well, this deep dive has been quite a journey. We've explored the whole world of tax evasion. We've looked at why it's happening and what we can do to stop it.
Yeah. It's been a really interesting conversation.
And I think ultimately it's given us some hope that things can change.
Yeah, think so.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would be your kind of final thought for our listener today?
Well, the report we've been discussing, it's really clear that we need more transparency and accountability in how our tax system works. So I'd ask our listeners, what changes would you like to see?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What kind of system do we want?
How can we make sure that everyone's playing by the same rules?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on social media.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe even write to your MP about it.
Yeah, your voice does matter.
Make sure you use it.
The more we talk about this, the more likely it is that we're going to see some real change.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into tax evasion. We hope you found it informative.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And empowering.
Definitely.
Remember, together we can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.